Hello everybody, Derek here again, and I'm here to bring you another video for the Walking Dead countdown to the Season 5 premiere of Walking Dead on October 12th. We're getting closer every day. We are 66 days away from the premiere, and in order to help us get there to count down those days, I'm going to be doing some videos, basically giving some ideas about what they may do for Season 5, a couple of different discussion topics. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a top 5 comic book elements or storylines that the Walking Dead creators should use in the upcoming 5th season. Now, again, if you have not caught up on The Walking Dead up to Season 4, or you have not read the comic books through approximately volumes 10 through 12, then I suggest that you not watch this video as it may contain spoilers. You can come back at a later time when you're caught up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is again, I'm going to be talking about 5 things that The Walking Dead needs to use from the comics in Season 5 that would make it a great season full of suspense and great storylines. One of the things that we've learned about The Walking Dead comics versus The Walking Dead TV show is that they are really 2 separate stories. And that is something that is very important. It's also something that makes the show very exciting. If The Walking Dead followed the comics verbatim, they would not have as many viewers of the show, or at least you wouldn't have as many people that would be excited about it. They kind of be like, oh yeah, Hershel's going to die at prison, and Shane was going to get shot by Carl in the first volume, and etc., etc. You would be able to, be able to pull out almost everything from the comics, and you would pretty much not even have a good time watching the show. Now, The Walking Dead they do use elements from the show and from the comic book series. Like, they basically pull various storyline plots, like Hershel's farm, Glenn and Maggie's relationship. You have Rick, Lori, Carl's relationships. You have several of the characters. You have the prison. You have the governor, Woodbury. They pull a lot of those elements out from the comics, but the way that they portray these events occurring is kind of different in some ways than what they've done in the comics, and that's a good thing. And I think that because of the fact that they have done a different kind of story, it has made The Walking Dead a lot better, and it has also made it more of a surprising, suspenseful show that all of us can enjoy. However, there are certain things from the comics that I feel are very essential to The Walking Dead for the show. If they would have left out the prison, I think it would have just been like a big loss for us. The prison was such a big part of the show, and I feel like there are certain things in Season 5 that the comics provide a very good storyline for, and I think that they can pull various elements. I'm going to be talking about those elements in this video today. So I kind of have them listed from 5 to 1, and I'm going to start with number 5. And number 5 is going to be the Rick and Abraham feud. As we know, and based on what I talked about in my last video with whether the Rick-tatorship is going to come back next season, one of the things that the comic books really emphasize on in the volumes 9, 10, and 11 is that Rick and Abraham's relationship when they meet up is not the healthiest. They're constantly at odds with each other. They're constantly, challenging each other's ideals and decisions of what they would do in various circumstances and situations from the group. Kind of like whenever Maggie hung herself, Abraham wanted to shoot her right then and there, thinking that she's dead, and Rick at least wanted to give a chance to see if maybe Maggie was still alive, and thankfully Maggie turned out to be alive, and that was a good decision by Rick. But on the other hand, Abraham does have good input, and he's on a mission. He's trying to get Eugene to Washington. He's going to do whatever it takes to get him there, and that shows that the two have the heart of the group. They have intentions to be there for the group, but those intentions come at odds with each other at times, and it eventually comes to the point where Abraham almost kills Rick. In the comics, he almost shoots him in the head when a walker attacks Rick. And I think that is something that is very important that they need to focus on in this 5th season. I don't want Abraham to necessarily bow down immediately to Rick and let Rick take back over the group. I think that Abraham is going to be a very tough character. He's definitely going to stand on his own. He's going to have some ideas. He's going to want to lead the group in a certain way, kind of like how he's been doing beforehand. He's a soldier. He's used to leadership. He's used to making these decisions. And he's not going to let Rick just go ahead and take the ball and run with it. So that's something I really think they need to focus on in the next season. Number 4 is going to be Morgan. I want them to reintroduce Morgan back into the storyline, even if it's just for a few episodes. I know they've been talking about Lenny James coming back to the show for a little bit. Lenny James is the man who plays Morgan. He made 2 appearances on the show already. He was set to possibly appear in season 4. They were talking about it, but nothing ever happened. He never reappeared. And what I'm hoping is that they reintroduce Morgan, even if it's just for a temporary time, because Morgan is a very important character, and he definitely brought a lot of great things to the show. And in the comics, he does go with Rick's group to Washington. Now, they may not have that luxury here because of Lenny James, and also, sometimes, again, the TV series does depart from the comics, which is okay. Morgan does, in a sense, kind of fade into the background, and kind of for the rest of the comic series while he was alive, all he really does is mourn his son Dwayne's death and gets into a relationship with Michonne. So maybe it might not be the best to take him, to Washington because they may not have a storyline for him. However, I think that one of the things that they can do is, if it's going to be like Rick's group being hunted down by the people at Terminus, maybe aka the Hunters of Terminus, if they're being hunted down, perhaps they could go to the town where Rick is from, to seek sanctuary with Morgan, because Morgan still has a lot of weapons. He has a lot of ability to, be able to defend that town, and it's possible that they may use that in the plotline, and I hope they do, because I really think it would be very important for the story, and I think it's a very big part of the comic book, and I'd really like to see that be used in the TV show. So that's number 4. Number 3 is that Rick's group should be hunted by these hunters. We have a lot of indications from the trailer that Rick's group is going to be, in essence, working with the Terminus people. Gareth, makes several statements like, you guys don't have a choice. We're going to go to Washington together. We're going to cure this thing. They kind of, band together. But I don't think that that's going to last a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if that was temporarily how they're able to get out of the situation they're in, being in the boxcar, potentially being eaten by these people at Terminus. I wouldn't be surprised if that only lasted for like an episode or 2, and Rick and co, get out of Dodge, and they escape. Because we see in the trailer that Rick does shoot approximately 5 to 6 men with guns, and we assume that these are the Terminus people. And I wouldn't be surprised if this partnership does not last long. If anything, it was just a temporary, diversion in order for the group to get out of there. So I really like to see Rick and the company be hunted down by these people at Terminus, because one of the things that happened in the comic books, Fear the Hunters, was, they felt like they were being watched. They felt like they were trapped inside Gabriel's church. And I think that that's something that they can use to their advantage in this storyline, because the people at Terminus have shown they are very dangerous people, and they are very capable of getting people to come to them and be locked up in these boxcars. The Hunters in the comic books make statements like, the reason why they turned to cannibalism in the comics is because they just were bad hunters, and they just decided that this was what they were going to have to do. And it was so easy, because who would think, you walk up to humans, who's going to think that they're going to be eating each other? You would never think that. Whereas you walk up to a deer, and the deer's going to run away once it sees a person. So it kind of, had the same concept. They kind of crossed that over, where you offer Terminus, you offer sanctuary to people in a Walking Dead world, and people are going to go there. And I think that the big thing that they need to focus on is showing just how dangerous these people at Terminus are, perhaps even more dangerous than the governor was. And I think that with them being hunted down by Gareth and the rest of his people, I think that they can create a suspenseful season with them on the run, trying to get to Washington, maybe trying to escape these Terminus people. And I think it would be absolutely great for the story. So I really hope that they do follow that plot line, and that they do have the Terminus people hunting Rick's group down, not just having them all work together for the entire season. I think that'd be pretty boring. Number 2 is going to be Father Gabriel's storyline. One of the things that I really want to see with Father Gabriel is for them to portray him kind of along the lines of the comic book. Most of the time, The Walking Dead has done a pretty good job of portraying the characters on the TV show in almost a very similar way that these characters are in the comics, with a couple differences for certain characters. And I think that that's okay. You don't want to necessarily portray all of these characters the same way. Again, like, they left out the Dale-Andrea relationship, which was a big part of the comics. They didn't portray it that way. There's other characteristics of every character, kind of like Michonne. I don't feel Michonne is as emotional in the TV show as she is in the comics. Like, when you first meet her, she's kind of like, you know, jumping all over Tyrese and everything. She's not as hardened of a character until later on in the series. And I think that right away in the TV show, she was introduced as a hardened type of character, and I really liked that. I liked that little change that they had with her, and she kind of grew into being more of a, you know, showing off positive types of emotions. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being emotional in The Walking Dead. You can't always be like a hardened person without emotions, but I like how Michonne is softened over the last few seasons with Carl and with Rick and with the rest of the group, and I kind of like how she started out more hardened. With Father Gabriel, what I want to see is them portray him almost like how they did in the comics. And in the comics, he locked all of his congregation out, wouldn't let anybody in, wouldn't help anybody, because he was selfish. You know, he didn't want people to be coming into his church because he wanted to survive. And I think that that's a very important thing that they need to introduce with Father Gabriel, because it's going to cause tension in the group when they realize that this guy is not really somebody that they can trust. Plus, they may think he's in cahoots with either the people at Terminus or these other people in the group with Beth. I would not be surprised, because one of the things you have to remember is when those people kidnapped Beth, they drove away in a car that had a cross on the back of it. And I don't think that's just a coincidence. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if these people were actually connected. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But I really hope that they portray Father Gabriel exactly how they did in the comics, with a few differences. Like, I think they could have room to grow with him. But I hope that they stick true to that story and then develop him from there. Finally, number 1, the one thing that I really want to see them do this season is to replicate Dale's death in the comics with another character. Doesn't necessarily have to be as gruesome, but I think that they need to show that these Terminus people truly are a threat, and that they have the ability to wipe out Rick's group one by one. Which what the Hunters' plan was they would go into a small group and kidnap one of the members, which would totally freak the other people out, and then they would basically, you know, eat their captured people little by little to keep them alive and keep the meat fresh, and then they might release them back, kind of like how they did with Dale. They brought him back and showed him in his state, which, because of the fact that he was bitten, he was tainted meat, which is one of the big scenes in the comics. I don't know if they necessarily have to follow it that way. They don't necessarily have to make it too gruesome. And the other thing is that it might be a little risque for TV. Kind of like how the Lizzie scene was seen as very controversial. I think they were able to get away with that, but I think that there may be some concerns about trying to get a scene like that into a TV show, especially one like AMC. If they were on HBO, heck, they'd be dropping the F-bomb every other minute, and believe me, they would do this scene, and I think that they would do it as gruesome as they can. But being on AMC, they have to be careful. But I really want to see them show that the Terminus people are a threat, and they are somebody that Rick's group needs to be careful with. And having one of the members captured and killed in that way, it could be because they are bit and they leave and they get captured, or it could be that they're just captured. I think is very important, and they definitely need to show that in this upcoming season if they really want to make a suspenseful, impactful type of season. So those are my five things that I hope to see. Again, I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to thank everybody who has subscribed so far. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Please give me video ideas. I'm always open to talking about different subjects. And again, we are 66 days away from Walking Dead. I'm getting excited, and we are going to be getting to October before we know it. I know we are. So thank you again, everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.